Hello, everyone. My name is Timing Clay, and this is my first What Could Have Been series. The purpose of this series is to give an alternate version and let you know what could have been. It could have been better, it could have been worse. That part is up for you to decide. But we wanted to give you an alternate version, an alternate take, where you could have watched this version in theaters instead of the one you have watched. The Last Jedi has split the fandom. It has really hurt sales, it's really hurt the Disney lineup, and has really hurt a lot of people's interest in the Star Wars universe, whether from the writer, director, actor side, or even from the fan side. A lot of people are starting to show this interest because this movie has split it. For me personally, I wanted to put myself to the challenge and basically say, was there a version of that movie that everyone could have loved? Was there a version out there that could have been told that every fan could have flocked to and enjoy? Was there a version where the sequel would be considered worthwhile to all? And I believe the answer is yes, just so we're clear. I'm not saying my version is that version, but I do believe there is a version. But I do want to put my hat in the ring to see if my version could have been that version. So what I wish to do is tell people who, whether you loved Rian Johnson's Last Jedi or you hated Rian Johnson's Last Jedi, I appeal to you to listen to this version and let me know your opinions of it. Now, whether you like it or whether you hate it, tell me why. Now, I'm going to split this into 4 parts because otherwise it would be a long video. And what I will do to also be fair is to be holding myself to the same rules that Rian Johnson had to be beholden to. Now, yes, he had a lot of freedom, but there were also ground rules for him. For example, he could not kill Rey. Make no mistake, Kathleen Kennedy would not allow that. So he had rules. So I will probably try to see what I felt Kathleen Kennedy would have given as rules and see if I can abide by them. I know rule number 1 would be that she likes having female characters in her story, so I will give myself the same amount of female characters that Rian Johnson had. So for that reason, Rose would be in my film. However, I will not use Admiral Holder, as she was more of a replacement character. She just basically was there to replace Leia during the time frame that was needed, so to create division between Poe and his ranking officer. Since my version actually has an arc for Leia, I don't need to replace Leia, so I will not use her. I will also give myself a 2.5 hour mark at most for my feature, because that's the length that Rian Johnson had. I know there were some political agendas in the feature, and if that was notes for Kathleen Kennedy, I would also be beholden to put agendas into the feature. Now, to be fair, all writers have political agendas in their features, or political statements to make, and so forth. The good writers make it in universe, so it doesn't be in your face, and it's very subtle, and it's just in universe, so it makes sense that it would happen that way, and makes you think. A bad writer keeps it out of universe where it becomes so blatant that you're push out the story. So with that said, I would put the political agenda in the stories that I felt like that she really wanted to make, but I would keep it in universe so it will not take you out of the story. At least that will be my attempt. You will tell me if I'm successful or not. And last thing I would have that's as a rule. So at that time, you did not know that Carrie Fisher was going to pass away so suddenly soon afterwards. So my story, whether Leia lives or dies or whatever happens to Leia, will have no bearing on what happened to the late, great Carrie Fisher. Now, I will note 2 other things that I will do. I know there have been some books around to tie in from what happened after The Last Jedi to the new sequel movies. However, I will not take any of those books into account. The reason behind it would be the books will cater to the movies, and the movies do not cater to the books. The most evident when the original EU was canceled because they wanted to do stories within the timeline that the books have already done. So they tossed it because the books need to cater to the movie, not the movie catering to the books. So with that said, I will not take into account any of the books that might have come around. So that means the Phasma books, any books that dealt with Hux, Poe, or Leia, or anyone else would not be taken into account. Only Episode 7, which was another movie, would be taken into account on my Episode 8. That also means, for me personally, that I will not take the Hosnian system as being the capital of the Republic into account, as that was not established in The Force Awakens. It was established in the books, but not in the Force Awakens movie. So for my version of it, so it can resonate better, Coruscant is the capital of the New Republic. I think that's it with all my stuff. So with that being said, again, I would love for both people, those who love the movies, those who hate the movies, those who are tired of the SJWs, those who are showing proponents of feminism. I encourage everyone to listen to this because that's the point. Is there a story out there that could appease to everyone, that could bring Star Wars back to whole again? And again, I'm not saying mine is, but I would like to take a stab at it. So hopefully you guys do enjoy. With that being said, let us begin. Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. The galaxy's in turmoil once again. Starkiller Base has destroyed many worlds of the New Republic, including the capital world, Coruscant. With no clear leadership, many planets have broken into factions, ready to be subjugated by the First Order. However, Leia leads the resistance to oppose the First Order's overwhelming army and attempt to bring peace and order back into the galaxy. But their only real hope is Luke Skywalker and whatever secrets he has left behind. One day ago, looking in space, we drop to Starkiller Base and we push into Han, seeing Kylo Ren on the catwalk. As he calls out Kylo's true name, Ben! We turn over to a remote planet where Luke Skywalker is meditating. His eyes shoot open as he hears Han's cry. Han, no, you will not be able to reach him, Luke says telepathically through the Force. I have to try, Han says telepathically, while saying the lines we heard in The Force Awakens to Kylo Ren. If you go, you will die. I foresaw it, Luke says. Maybe, Han says. But you said it might be the only way. Luke pleads with Han to stop, saying, we don't know that. The future is always in motion. It might not go the way we think. But Han continues forward, spouting his lines to Ben while talking in his mind to Luke, ending with, just promise me, if I fail, you bring my son back. You owe me, remember? And as Han is stabbed with Kylo Ren's lightsaber, Luke's "No!" echoes Rey's. Han slips into the abyss. Suddenly, we are back in the present. Luke ponders for a moment, seeing Rey's outstretched hand holding his old lightsaber that was handed down to him from his father and then at the girl before him. Luke walks past the girl, not taking the lightsaber. He tells her, come, there's not much time left. Right, she says, now feeling stupid just standing there holding the lightsaber. She puts it away. If we hurry, we can make it back to the Resistance before... We're not going back, Luke says. What do you mean? The Resistance needs Luke Skywalker, Rey says. Rey, I'm right where I need to be, Luke says. Rey looks bewildered. How do you know my name? Luke frowns, realizing he said too much. I knew your mother. My mother? Luke quickly interrupts her. Now is not the time. They're coming. Who? Rey asks. We are suddenly whisked into outer space, watching a fleet of First Order ships gathering. Snoke's flagship, the Supremacy, among them. Inside, General Hux watches as a helpless Captain Phasma, relieved of her battle armor and replaced with tattered clothes, suffer in chains as electricity flows through them. "I hope you are comfortable," Hux says. Phasma grumbles. "Kill me." He kneels down to her. "No, you don't get that privilege. You told the Resistance how to break through the shields of Starkiller Base. Now it's time to learn the price of failure." An officer walks over to Hux. "Supreme Leader Snoke requests your presence." Fear enters Hux's eyes. He nods and leaves. Hux enters the throne room where Supreme Leader Snoke is waiting, along with his Praetorian guards, which pretty much surround the room of any unlucky to enter. Hux eyes the Crimson Guards carefully. "Supreme Leader Snoke, I assure you, the men responsible for the destruction of Starkiller Base have all been properly dealt with." Snoke waves his hand dismissively. "I don't care about the scapegoats you are using to mask your failure. I have a new assignment for you." Snoke pulls up a holographic map of the systems, pointing to many locations on the map. "I need you to have the fleet attack these planets." Hux stammers. "Sir, if I may, isn't that spreading our forces too thin?" Snoke fires from his chair. His guards immediately whip out their blades. "Are you dare questioning me after your failure?" Hux bows respectfully. "No, sir, not at all." "Then do as I say," Snoke says. Hux nods and quickly retreats from Snoke's presence just as Kylo Ren steps in. Kylo Ren kneels respectfully. "I have failed you," Kylo says. "Do you know why you failed?" Snoke asks. "Because I am weak," Kylo resigns. "No, but you do lack foresight. Didn't you feel another presence in the middle of your battle with the girl?" Snoke asks. Kylo thinks for a moment. "Luke Skywalker." Snoke nods. "He guided her, helped her win, probably without her even knowing it. The Skywalker's blood is strong indeed. No matter. Everything is still proceeding as planned. Take your Knights of Ren, find Skywalker and the girl, and do what must be done." "How, Master?" Kylo Ren asks. "The traitor will soon reveal himself. Find the traitor and you will find Skywalker. And then your training will be complete," Snoke replies. Meanwhile, Finn jolts awake in the medbay screaming, "Rey!" Maz Kanata calmly places a hand onto his shoulder. "She's fine. You saved her, and in return, she saved you." Finn feels his back, realizing a cybernetic exoskeleton spine sticking out his skin. "Your spine was completely sliced in half. We had to replace it. Thankfully, you're the legendary Finn who helped defeat the great Kylo Ren, so no expense was too great for you. That's why they sent me. This cybernetic implant will make you faster. Might even help you the next time you need to take on a Dark Jedi." Finn shakes his head. "Trust me, that was a one-time thing." "If you say so," Maz smiles. "Anyway, it should help you with any bounties on your head." "Bounties?" Finn says. "Well, you did help destroy Starkiller Base. The First Order placed at least 7 bounties on your head." Hakan blinks. She checks it. "Make that 8. Finn shoots up to his feet, rushes out the door. "Where do you think you're going?" Maz asks. "I have to find Rey," Finn says. "She's not here. She went to find Luke," Maz tells him. Finn stops, thinks for a moment, and then says, "Where's Poe?" At the bridge of the Resistance flagship, Leia, standing in the command center, says, "Poe, you're a go." In the jungle, Poe looks through the binoculars at a group of Trandoshan raiders holding innocent Twi'leks hostages. "Why again am I on the ground and not in the air?" he asks his comms. In the air, in an old rust bucket of a ship that's clearly been patched and repatched together, Paige Tico sits in the pilot's seat looking down. Smiling, she merely says, "Because your tight butt looks so cute sneaking around like that. We're in position, by the way. Just remember, it's all on you up there. You need to give us enough time to get the Twi'leks out." I won't be able to bail you out if you get into trouble, Poe says. Paige scoffs. If memory serves me correctly, the last 5 times I bailed you out. And if you had waited for me before going on a secret mission for the princess, you would never have been captured by Kylo Ren in the First Order. Poe merely smiles, knowing he's been bested. You know she hates being called the princess, his only reply. I'm ordering. She will always be a princess to me, Paige says. Poe sees the last of the Twi'leks being moved to the transport. Okay, go! Paige nosedives her freighter-class ship and strafes the Trandoshan Raiders' ships, blowing half of them away, along with several turret towers and factory houses. Several raiders scramble into their fighters and chase after her. Paige dodges and weaves through blaster fire, but as the raiders swarm on her, they hit her backside. Rose! Paige cries out as an alarm blares that there's a fire. I think they hit the fuselage. Can you put a clamp on it? In the engine room, Rose is being bounced around as she tries to clamp down a wire, firing sparks. I could if you keep us straight for 1 second. Less talking, more fixing, Paige tells her. Another blast hits them. Just so we're clear, if the ship blows up, it takes out the person next to the engine first, Paige reminds her. She hits the comm. Gold Squadron, this is the Ebon Hawk. We gave Poe a clearing. Now we need someone to pull our behind out of the fire. A squad of X-Wings sits in orbit. They fire up their engine. Ebon Hawk, this is Gold Leader. We're coming in. Meanwhile, seeing the coast is clear, Poe signals for several resistance on the ground to attack the raiders. Within moments, they overtake the pirates and take over the transport holding the Twi'lek. Poe, taking over the pilot's seat of the transport, looks back at the Twi'lek and says, Don't worry. You're safe now. The resistance is here. He then fires up the transport and takes off. Back on the Ebon Hawk, being blasted on by the raiders. Rose doing her best to patch things up, but as soon as she takes care of one thing, another item begins to catch fire. Where are they? Rose says. You worry about down there. I'll worry about up here, Paige tells her. Suddenly, a wave of X-Wing fighters intercept the raiders' ship and blow them away. See, Paige says. Just like we planned. Rose gives a skeptical look. We wipe to later. Poe and company dock at the Resistance ship and free the Twi'lek. Poe looks at the damaged Ebon Hawk and then at Paige coming out of it with Rose. Wow. You lucky you got out of it in one piece, Poe says. Luck has nothing to do with it, Paige says. This is a tough little ship. Poe wraps Paige in his arms. So are you. They share a kiss. You better go make your report to the princess. You know she hates to wait, Paige says. Poe nods and heads off. Paige sees Rose making stupid kissy faces. Don't you have a ship to repair, Paige says. I wouldn't have to repair it if you knew how to fly it, Rose says. Keep it up. You are going to get really familiar with the ejection seat, Paige retorts. At the bridge, Poe walks in as Leia is in discussion with Arak, the Hutt. This is Republic territory. The Hutts have no place here, Leia reminds Arak. There is no Republic, Arak says. You have enough trouble with the First Order. Do you really want to fight at multiple fronts? We just took out a Starkiller base. Do you really want to go to war with us? Leia asks. Arak grumbles something in his language and cuts off communication. Hutts, Leia says. She turns to Poe. He's not wrong, Poe says. We can't keep going like this. That's why we must bring Luke back, Leia says. We may not be able to wait, Poe says. People are looking for a leader. Well, thanks to Starkiller Base, we're in short supply of those, Leia says. General, we might need you to be a princess again, Poe says. I think I'm a little too old for that, Leia says. You know what I mean, Poe says. We cannot keep hold of the galaxy unless we reestablish a government. And you've already proven you can do that when you created New Orderon for your people. You can do more as the Princess of New Orderon than you can as a general of a resistance. Technically, I would be a queen, Leia points out. Even better, Poe says. Leia nods. Gather everyone you can find who is still loyal to the Republic, and maybe a few who are not. I think it's time to find out where we stand. At the hangar bay, Paige and Rose hurry to fix up their ship as many other Resistance members scramble to the X-Wings, K-Wings, and new fighters. This is not even patched up yet. All of the weapons are offline. Half the systems don't even work, Rose says. It's an escort mission. You shouldn't need weapons, Poe says as he passes them and heads to a new fighter called the Scrambler, which is bigger than the X-Wing but a smidge smaller than a freighter-type vehicle. Yeah, that's what they always say. Until you need them, Rose mumbles. Poe smiles. BB-8 pops his head out as it makes the final adjustments. Ready? Poe asks BB-8. BB-8 nods. Poe, Finn cries as he runs up to him. Hey, Finn, Poe greets with a hug. It's good to see you, buddy. We're about to go on a mission. We could use an extra hand. I can't. I have to get to Rey, Finn says. Rey's fine. She's with Luke, Poe says. How can we be so sure she made it, Finn asks. We have to have faith, Poe says. Besides, we can't spare any ships right now. The Republic is falling apart. And unless we do something right now, it's not going to last. We could really use you, buddy. I'm done with all the fighting. I just want to get Rey and get out of here, Finn says. I understand, Poe says. I can't help much, but I can show you where we sent her. BB-8? BB-8 shows a holographic map of Luke's location. It then extends an arm with a data chip. Poe grabs it and hands it to Finn. I hope you find what you're looking for, Poe says. Thanks, Finn says. You're still going to need a ship and a pilot, Poe says. I'll think of something, Finn says. Smoke spews out the Ebon Hawk. Ugh! Rose screams as she slams her wrench against the ship. She starts kicking and screaming. I think we're going to need a minute, Paige says. No time, Poe says. Hop on the AK Scramblers. It'll be like old times. Paige smiles. Sweet talker. She turns back to Rose and says, You got this, right? Rose doesn't pay attention as she continues kicking and screaming. Perfect, Paige says as she hops aboard the Scrambler as the co-pilot. Poe hop on as the pilot. BB-8 beeps perturbed as he's being sidelined. Next time, buddy, Poe promises. BB-8 beeps upset. Poe signals his people to fly away, leaving Finn and BB-8 behind. Finn looks at BB-8 for a second, wondering what to do next, and then his eyes turn to the Ebon Hawk. Rose snaps out of her tirade and notices Finn's gaze. Don't even think about it, she warns him. Aboard Snoke's flagship, the Supremacy, Hux reports to the throne room where Snoke sits. Our forces have taken control of several star systems, Hux reports. And the casualties? Snoke asks. They were high, but we are holding them, Hux says. Good, Snoke says. We also have reports that the Resistance sent several ships out to several different sectors of the Republic, Hux adds. They are trying to regroup what is left of the new Republic. It is as I predicted, Snoke says. General, let them gather their ambassadors and admirals, and when they regroup to one central location, we will crush them. Yes, sir. I will tell our forces to regroup at once, Hux says. No. We will take them with the forces we have here, Snoke says. Sir, our fleet is too small. The casualties... This is the second time you question me, Snoke says. There will not be a third. Hux gulps. He nods. As you wish. Hux quickly exits Snoke's presence. Snoke turns to a vid screen showing Captain Phasma still being tortured in chains. Can you hear me, Captain Phasma? Snoke asks. Phasma merely looks up at the screen. How would you like a second chance of redemption? Snoke asks. Phasma nods. Snoke smiles. Back at the remote planet, Luke takes Rey, Chewie, and R2-D2 back to his hut and drops an ancient book on the table before them. We were wrong, Luke admits. About the Sith, about the Jedi. We merely thought Palpatine was just evil bent on ruling the galaxy. In reality, he was trying to save it. Save it? Rey questions. From the Yuuzhan Vong. Palpatine went about it the wrong way, but he was able to keep the Yuuzhan Vong at bay when he realized the Republic was becoming weak, when the Jedi became complacent and failed in keeping balance, Luke says. Chewbacca grows confused. Rey agrees. Yeah, I don't get it. Are you saying the Emperor was good? That you were on the wrong side? Luke shakes his head. I'm saying we are two sides of the same coin. For over a millennia, The Jedi were protectors of the galaxy with one purpose: to stop the Yuuzhan Vong from entering the galaxy and destroying life as we know it. But the Jedi couldn't decide how to best defend the galaxy from such a threat. Some believed that they should do so by protecting and defending the code of the Republic, allowing diversity and equality among the people to breed strength, while others discovered a race who was able to stop the Yuuzhan Vong once before through brutality and an iron fist, and those Jedi adopted their philosophy. They later became known as the Sith. The problem was, over the years, the Jedi and the Sith were so busy fighting each other, we forgot why we were fighting, until a Sith named Darth Plagueis stumbled upon an ancient text of an oncoming threat and devised an ambitious plan by using the Force to create someone who can possibly one day bring balance to the Force. But his apprentice Palpatine thought it wasn't enough, especially since the Yuuzhan Vong are immune to most Force powers. So he killed his master, destroyed the Republic, and formed the Empire so great the Yuuzhan Vong wouldn't dare challenge it, especially after he showed the galaxy the full power of the Death Star. Then the rebels defeated the Empire and formed the New Republic. That's when the Yuuzhan Vong knew they could strike. But they had to be careful, as we had formed an armed force of our own and brought back the Jedi Order. So they infiltrated our ranks and converted our strongest Jedi into their services to destroy us from within. Then they rallied what was left of the Empire and formed the First Order so they can weaken our forces. And finally, they punched a hole in our government by recreating a more powerful version of the Death Star and aimed it at core planets of the New Republic. Now that we're beaten, they are finally ready to come out of hiding and strike. Even more reasons for us not to stay here any longer. They need you, Rey says. Despite whatever story you might have heard, even I cannot take on a whole army by myself, Luke says. We need help. You have the Resistance, Rey says. They are about to fall into a trap, Luke says. Rey leaps from her chair. Then we have to go now. We can't, Luke says. I have friends there, Rey says. She turns to leave. Luke grabs her by the hand, saying, Rey, wait! Suddenly, a flash happens, and Rey is no longer in the hut. She's back to being a 7-year-old girl crying in a temple. Luke is there too, looking younger, but also disheveled. No, I won't let you, young Rey says. Luke snatches her by the arm. Young Rey shakes it off and force pushes Luke away. Luke appears stunned. Then with a new resolve, he shoves young Rey to the wall and places his hand over her forehead. Forget, Luke demands. Forget! Rey shakes Luke off of her, suddenly back at the hut. Luke also looks rattled. What was that? Rey asks. Something I wish you hadn't seen, Luke says. What did you do to me? Rey demands. Rey, we don't have time for this. We have to prepare, Luke says. No, Rey says. Tell me. Rey grabs his hand, reaches out with the Force, and suddenly she's back at that temple, back to being 7 years old, happy playing alongside a red-headed woman. The redhead uses the Force to lift a boulder. You try, the redhead woman says. Rey uses the Force and lifts a boulder. Good girl, the redhead says. The redhead turns as she sees Luke approaching. She smiles and gives him a kiss. How is our girl? Luke asks. She's a Skywalker. So of course she stumbled about messing up everything. And then I reminded her that she also has my blood in her. She was fine after that, the redhead says. Luke smiles. I see. Well, good thing she has you. Suddenly, we whip a little forward in time, young Rey watching her parents argue in the other room. You said it yourself. He's going to turn. You saw it. Why is he still here? The redhead asks. If we turn our back on him, he will definitely turn, Luke says. We should kill him, the redhead says. Mara, I'm not going to kill him. He's just a boy, Luke says. A frightened boy who hasn't done anything wrong yet. You saw it. He will destroy everything you built, Mara says. He's still conflicted. There's still a chance to save him, Luke says. You always want to see the good in people, but sometimes you're wrong, Mara says. I'm not, Luke says. I'm not going to bet our daughter on it. She walks off. Mara, wait, Luke says. Another flash, and Mara is taking young Rey toward a shuttle. Suddenly, she is surrounded by an 18-year-old Kylo Ren in his usual dark Jedi outfit and the Knights of Ren. Where are you going, Aunt Mara? Kylo Ren asks. Move aside, Mara says. They don't. I won't ask again, Mara warns. They ignite their lightsaber. She ignites her purple one. It is a fierce battle, but in the end, it ends with Kylo Ren plunging his lightsaber through Mara's chest. No, young Rey cries, followed quickly by Luke as he force pushes Kylo Ren and his Knights of Ren back. Luke is backed by an army of young Jedi around the same age as Kylo Ren. Luke's loyal Jedi rushes toward Kylo Ren and his Knights of Ren. Luke grabs his daughter and rushes her back to the temple, with 2 Jedi following him, ensuring their safety. Rey is crying. Why? Luke looks at his daughter. I know. We don't have much time. Listen to me. We are going to make you forget. Young Rey snaps out of it. What? No! There is no other way. We have to get you out of here. But if they follow, they can track you, unless you are no longer tapped into the Force, Luke says. But that means I will forget Mom, Rey says. If I can, I'll come back for you, Luke says. He reaches out with his hand. Rey backs away. No, I won't let you. Luke snatches her by the arm. Young Rey shakes it off and force pushes Luke away. Luke appears stunned. Then with a new resolve, he shoves young Rey to the wall and places his hand over her forehead. Forget, Luke demands. Forget! Young Rey passes out. Luke gives her to a nearby Jedi. Take her. I'll hold them off. Don't tell me where. When the time is right, I'll find her. The Jedi nods and rushes her to a ship. Just as the door bursts open and Kylo Ren and his knights enter. Luke, Kylo Ren calls out. Luke ignites his lightsaber. Other Jedi come to Luke's aid. It is a fierce battle, but Luke disarms Kylo Ren, knocking him to the floor. As Luke is about to deal the final blow, he stops, unable to do so. Kylo Ren takes advantage and force pushes him through a wall, and rubble comes down on Luke. When Luke punches through the rubble with his metal hand, his temple is in ruins and all the Jedi are dead. Only R2-D2 remains. He puts his metallic hand on R2. Rey stops using the Force, angry tears in her eyes as she glares at her father. Luke somberly nods. Now you know, Luke says. You could have killed him, Rey says. You could have prevented all of this. It's not that simple, Luke says. What about coming back for me? That wasn't simple either, Rey scoffs. How do you think you made it here? Do you really believe out of the thousands of planets the Millennium Falcon just happened to be on the same one you were? Or that Han found you at just the right moment? Or that R2 just woke up the moment you arrived to give you my location? I have seen many futures, and I've been carefully manipulating events where I can. Great, so you've been manipulating me my whole life, Rey says. Luke ignores Rey and continues. Unfortunately, Snoke has also seen the future, and there are many versions where he and the Yuzong Fong wipe us out. We have to be smart about this. And let good people die? Rey asks. Sometimes. Yes, Luke says. Rey shakes her head. You're a coward. She stomps off. Chewbacca growls. No, Chewie. I didn't predict that, Luke says. He sighs, then refocuses. Did Han complete his mission before he died? Chewbacca roars again. Good, Luke says. Then there's still hope. Maz gathers her equipment and piles them on the medical bay. Finn rushes in. Good. You're still here, Finn says. Yes, the base is on lockdown. No ships are available to fly me back, Maz says. Unfortunately, mine was damaged when the First Order attacked us on Takodana. So I'm stuck here until Poe and company come back. I can get us a ship. As a thank you for helping me, Finn says. Maz looks at him skeptically. What do you want? Why would I want something? Finn asks innocently. I had been around Han long enough to know when someone wants something, Maz says. Spit it out. Okay, I need a pilot. Someone to take me to Rey, Finn says. Did you ever consider Rey is where she needs to be? Maz asks. The Resistance need Luke, right? Shouldn't we make sure that he has all the support he needs? Finn argues. Don't pretend you actually care about the Resistance or Luke. It's beneath you, Maz says. Okay, you're right. But Rey is out there and she's in trouble. I can feel it. And Chewie is out there with her. We already lost one person we care about. I don't want to lose another, Finn says. Do you? Maz ponders his proposal. So how are you going to steal a ship? Finn laughs nervously. Who say anything about stealing a ship? You've been awake for 10 minutes? And I'm supposed to believe you already have a ship? Maz questions. Finn drops the act. Good point. Okay, here's how. Finn and Maz approach the hangar bay where Rose and BB-8 are hard at working fixing up the Ebon Hawk. Maz looks at the ship. This is the ship you want to steal? Maz asks. Yeah, I know it might not look like much, but not look like much. This is the Ebon Hawk, or at least a good replica, as the original would be over 5,000 years old. It was used by a great Jedi who brought peace to the galaxy right when the Old Republic was on the brink of failing. Even a replica would be priceless. Finn shoots her a questioning look. I'm a scavenger, honey, Maz answers. Next time, lead with this. Good to know, Finn says. Finn nods to BB-8. Suddenly, BB-8 steals a laser torch Rose is holding and rolls away. Hey, Rose cries, chasing him. Finn and Maz quickly sneak aboard. Okay, all we have to do is find the cockpit, and then you can do you, Finn says. It should be this way, Maz says. They head to the cockpit, and Finn buckles himself in as Maz starts firing up the engine, only to have the engine sputter a bit. In the hangar bay, Rose stops chasing BB-8 as she notices someone starting up the Ebon Hawk. Maz cranks it and gives it another go. Finally, the engine roars to life. Okay, we're ready, Maz says. Are you seriously trying to steal my ship? Questions a surprised Rose with a large wrench ready to bludgeon someone. Finn spins around nervously. No, of course not. You're literally sitting in the cockpit with the engine running, Rose says. Yeah, that sounds kind of bad when you say it like that, Finn admits. But we're not stealing it, we're just borrowing it. Really, Rose questions. To save a friend. I know you understand. You have family. If one of them was in trouble, wouldn't you do anything to save them? That's all I'm trying to do, Finn says. Rose smiles. That's so sweet. Okay, I'm going to tase you now. Finn whips out a blaster. I didn't want to have to do this. Rose merely looks at him skeptically. You're not going to shoot me. Trust me, right now, I really want to shoot you, Finn says. I'm calling security, Rose says. She reaches for a comlink. Finn stuns her with the blaster. Maz looks at Finn. So now what? Finn thinks for a moment. The next thing we see is an awakened Rose banging from inside a maintenance locker within the hangar bay as the Ebon Hawk takes off across from her. In space, we see the Ebon Hawk fly out of the hangar bay. In the distance, we see Kylo Ren and his Knights of Ren watching the Ebon Hawks and their shuttle. There's the traitor, Kylo Ren says. One of the knights named Sailor pushes a few buttons. I just hijacked their navigational system. We can track them anywhere the moment they punch in the coordinates. Good, Kylo Ren says. Follow him. Back on the Falcon, Rey hauls some supplies onto the ship. Chewie grabs those same supplies and takes them back out, growling at her. No, Chewie. He had his chance. We have to get back, Rey says, snatching the supplies back. Our friends need us. Chewie growls again. How do you expect me to trust him? He has literally lied to me my whole life, Rey says. Chewie growls again, but she cuts him off. No, I don't want to hear that he was doing it to protect me, Rey says angrily. You don't get it. He has taken everything from me. My mom, my life. That wasn't just Kylo Ren. That was him. You're right, Luke says, walking in. And for that, I'm truly sorry. But that night, I never felt such rage, such hatred coming from one person. So what? You were afraid of what he would do to me? Rey finishes for him. I was afraid of what you might do, Luke says. The moment he struck down your mother, the rage all but consumed you. I could tell in that instant you were all but lost. I had a vision of you striking down Kylo Ren and taking his place as leader of the Knights Ren. I couldn't let that happen, so I gave you a chance for a new life, a blank slate to forge a new destiny. If I'm such a danger, why bring me back? Rey asks. Because you might also be our only hope. You and Ben, Luke says. A long time ago, there was a prophecy that a chosen one will appear and bring balance to the Force. At first, the Jedi believed it was my father. Then he turned to the dark side and all but wiped out the Jedi, leaving it to his son to bring him back to the light. Then a great Jedi and a great Jedi Master believed it was me, even though in the end, it was my father who turned against the Emperor and destroyed the Sith. But now, I wonder if the prophecy was misinterpreted. Maybe the chosen one referred to us as one family, who will one day breed one light and one dark. And together, they will bring balance to the Force and help us defeat the Yuuzhan Vong. And you believe it's me and Kylo Ren? Rey questions. Yes, Snoke believes it too. That was why he was trying to get Ben to turn you to the dark side by killing your mom. If he can break the balance, all is lost, Luke says. So what? You want to train me to become a Jedi? Rey snarks. No. It is time for the Jedi to end. And it is time for the Sith to end. If we are going to survive, we need to become something different. Something new, Luke says. Which is? Rey asks. That is something you and Ben need to decide, Luke says. Luke frowns, sensing something is off. What's wrong? Rey asks. It seems your friend is just as impulsive as you are, Luke says. Who? Finn? He's okay? Rey says, smiling. Yes, he's on his way here, Luke says. Seeing her smile, he adds, and he's bringing Kylo Ren with him, much sooner than expected. Her smile fades. We're not ready, Luke tells Chewie. You need to leave now. Wait! Shouldn't he stay and help? Rey questions. There's no time for that, Luke says. But right after Han lost Ben to the dark side, he had to make a choice. He could go back to Leia and be with her, comfort her, or he can leave everything behind and follow my instructions. Become a smuggler again. Set up a smuggling ring that we can use for backdoor communications and to gather forces for when the time was right. And maybe, just maybe, we might have a chance. You told him to abandon his family? Rey says in disgust. Yes. So one day, he might have a chance to save them, Luke says. Now it's your turn to make a choice. Save your friends, or save us all. This concludes the first part of the story. If you have any questions or want to leave any comments, please feel free to leave them below, and I will try to see if I can address some of them, if not all, at the end of the next video. However, before I conclude this video, there are a couple of issues I will address right now. One would probably be the most elephant question in the room, which is, why did I make Rey a Skywalker? Honestly, I believe that decision was made before episode 7 was even in full production. And what I mean by that is this. When Disney bought Star Wars and decided to make episode 7, they had the idea that they were going to let you know that they were going back to the core of Star Wars. They were not going to do what the prequels did. They were going to take the vein of the original trilogy. They decided to do so by bringing back the cast of the original trilogy. And I guess as a marketing point, it was a smart move. However, as a storytelling point, it basically said the stories of Luke, Han, and Leia was not over. And basically the Skywalker saga was not over. And that one decision made this trilogy a Skywalker story. Because if the Skywalker story is not over and it continues in this trilogy, then you have to have your star be a Skywalker. And you may go, wait a minute. I understand the Skywalker saga is continuing, but that's what Ben Solo is for. And to some degree you can say that, but here's the problem. Ben is not the star of the trilogy. Rey is. So now you have competing focuses if one of them is a Skywalker and the other is not. Let me put it another way. Let's say you are hosting a party, and for sake of argument, you are a strong Marvel fan, okay? For sake of argument. So you are hosting a party, you are a strong Marvel fan, and 6 people are now begging for your attention, and they're constantly, trying to talk to you. 3 of the 6 people are Chris Evans, aka Captain America, Scarlett Johansson, aka Black Widow, and Robert Downey Jr., aka Iron Man. And the other 3 are decent people, but they are not celebrities, they are not Marvel characters, they are just regular, ordinary people who are strangers to you. Now, even if you are the nicest person on earth, you are going to have a hard time trying to give these 3 strangers your attention when you have a chance and opportunity to talk to 3 people you've been dying to talk to all your life. You may try to, be nice and try to get these 3 people your attention, but your attention is always going to be veering toward the people you have always wanted to meet, which are these actors who are playing these great Marvel characters. Now, let's take the scenario again. However, let's change it slightly. There are 6 people still trying to get your attention. 3 of them are still Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, and Robert Downey Jr. However, the other 3 people are now Mark Ruffalo, aka the Hulk, Chris Hemsworth, aka Thor, and Tom Holland, aka Spider-Man. Now the playing field is even. Now all 6 of them have equal chance of getting your attention, and you obviously will start focusing on the ones who basically just click with you more. Each one of them has an equal chance of getting your attention. And that's all you did was level the playing field. That's all that is meant to be done with making her a Skywalker. You are leveling the playing field with the other Skywalkers competing for your attention. With whether it's Luke, Leia, Han by marriage, Ben by birth. And so, yes, you put Rey in that mix. So now, all of them has a chance of getting your attention, and it'll be the one that resonates the most that will keep your attention. And also, the other reason to make her a Skywalker is because eventually, everyone wants to know what happened to Luke ever since Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And we have to explain that. However, to take time to explain that would take time away from Rey unless Rey and Luke's backstories are connected. And you don't want to take anything away from Rey because Rey is still the star of this trilogy. So you want to connect their backstories. It's called, it's the KISS method. Or as I call it, the KISS-app method, which is keep it simple as possible. So the best way to do it is to have Rey and Luke Skywalker's stories linked. So every time we are talking about Luke's backstory, we are also talking about Rey's. Why was Luke gone this long? And how does that relate to why he abandoned his daughter, or seemingly abandoned his daughter for this long period of time? How does she feel about the decisions that he made? What's going through her mind? Was it worth it? It brings it back to Rey. It makes it, again, Rey's story. And that's why I made her a Skywalker. Now, the second thing I wish to discuss is Carrie Marie Tran's Rose, because I have her at the moment could possibly be seen as an annoying character who then gets shoved into a locker like I'm dismissing her. Let me assure you I'm not. Her character actually has a plot point in the story. I can't go too much into what it means because that will spoil whether she lives or dies, or how strong or how many more times we're going to see her and things like that. I do not want to discuss that part because that's spoiler territory. That's discussing several arcs. But I will say that this arc is more setup, and there are ripple effects that will either affect her or her loved ones. So that's the reason why these events are happening, not to basically belittle the character or anything else like that. It's just plot points that needs to have so it can resonate either with her character or with those around her strongly later on as other events start to unfold. Another thing I would address is, why did I bring the Yuzan Vong into this? The reason why I bring the Yuzan Vong into the story is mainly because it does bring a whole new complexity to the Star Wars universe. And when you look at the EU Legends universe, you will know that there are only 3 things that resonate so strongly that can be comparable by itself as is to the original Star Wars movie franchise. 3 things, or which is either 3 people or 3 events. One was Grand Admiral Thrawn, which was brought back into canon thanks to Star Wars Rebels. The other one was Mara Jade Skywalker, which I brought into my version of the story because her character was so rich and intriguing. And the third thing was the whole Yuzan Vong War, which was as comparable to the Galactic Empire War with the Rebels. So, and exploring that war within this version, within this timeline, will make it have a very different feel than the war that the Rebels had with the Empire, and also the war that the old Republic had with the Separatists. So this will give a whole different feel. And also, since I am using this to basically give validity of why Snoke, who's so old and has not been discovered by the Empire or the Rebels, it shows you where he's coming from. It gives you his backstory right then and there. Now, for those who may go, Snoke may not look like the pictures that would reflect the Yuzan Vong will look like. Keep in mind, those are legend books, and so you can always argue that those were not considered canon, how the Yuzan Vong will look. And you can also say, maybe there's a reason why he looks different. I mean, I do know the backstory behind him. I'm not going to say because I will either show it to you or I won't. And if I don't show it to you, I would want to know if I showed you enough for it to have succeeded as is. And if I did show it to you, then obviously I don't want to do spoilers. But there is a backstory to him, and yes, I felt it was important for us to have the Yuzan Vong War and to show a new side of the Empire and what the Emperor was trying to do, because now the Emperor is now an evil person still, but he's an evil person who was trying to do good, or what he felt was good for the galaxy, not just evil for his own intention. He felt like this was the way to do it. But now is that old saying, does the end justify the means? Or is the means necessary for the ending? So it brings that into the story, and it makes us have a different outlook to what we may see from both the prequels and the originals. The last elephant in the room that somebody might want to talk about is, why am I messing with the Chosen One storyline? The answer, unfortunately, is because I must. If Anakin was supposed to have brought peace to the galaxy and balanced the Force, then why is Ben evil? Why is the Republic on the brink of destruction? Why is all this stuff happening? So obviously the prophecy was false, or the prophecy only covered for 10, 15, 20 years? That doesn't seem much like a prophecy. So to make it right again, you have to put that in question. You have to redefine what the prophecy was. And you have to hope that maybe you can, whatever you redefine it as could possibly work. And so I try to do the best I can without basically corrupting or disrupting what was done before with Anakin too much, but keeping him part of the play of the prophecy, and possibly even putting Luke in the play of the prophecy, which hopefully will also end with Luke, with Rey, and Ben in the place of the prophecy. So that was what I was thinking. And again, these are all the stuff just letting you know what I was thinking. I'm not necessarily saying that it was the right way to go, but it was something that I had to explore and had to define because I had to do it. And lastly, felt like I had to basically redefine the world building, because world building was needed for the story so not everything makes sense. And so, if some people wonder why we were exposition heavy in the first place, it's because the world wasn't built. We did not understand the state of the world, unfortunately, in Force Awakens. That to me was the only weak part of the Force Awakens movie. Otherwise, everything else was pretty much, I thought, was flawless in it. Even though it was a retelling of A New Hope, I will state that. But it was 40 years, and that's why I allowed it. It was supposed to meant to bring Star Wars energized again, and for the most part, it succeeded in that. It made Star Wars energized again. But world building was missed. So it is now left to people whoever did episode 8 to do the world building. So I had to take this time to do world building, not just for what was done before, but also for what the state of the galaxy is now. So I used the Luke to discuss the before, and I used the Leia to discuss the now. And that's how I ended up doing it. Let me know if you thought that would work as well, or if you thought that was bad idea. So with that said, I thank you greatly again for giving me your time, and I hope I gave you a story worthy of that time. Thank you.